down in the middle, but the link is another factor that negates the strength of Bristol in the team fight.
But you know what they really opened up for? I think they could easily go into a Wisp Tinker pickup and have a good time at assuring map control everywhere on the Virtus.Pro lineup.
I like the Wisp a lot. I'm not 100% sold on the Tinker. I think I'd like to see something, if you're already going to go for a little bit of an unusual lineup, I'd like to see something just a little bit more stable for G.
I think back to your earlier question of why they didn't pick up Wisp instead of the Visage is because they almost always react with support Naga Siren, and it's usually picked up in the first phase by EG, and it's really good at dealing with Wisp and Bristle. You can isolate the Wisp very easily. You can, wait out the relocate so that you're forced to fight 3v5, and it's just overall one of EG's best heroes.
Oh yeah, the Visage pickup, but there's no doubt it was a good pickup. That way you also force their bans in the second phase.
I wonder if they're considering a silencer pickup right now.
Oh, well, we'll find out what VP will do as they round it out.
So yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that they're just not instantly picking the IO here.
Don't you not want to overload on physical damage, though, against a Dazzle pickup? I feel like Visage and Bristle are already pretty heavy physical, as well as Tuck to some extent, and it's a lot of single target burst with the first two, which Dazzle I think is really, really good against.
Do we have a magic damage heavy mid left?
Well, I mean, they could have committed to like a typical Wisp Tiny instead of a...
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Now yeah.
The problem I see here is not only Shaker I was mentioning is pretty good against Tusk and Snowball. You can even consider a contesting tri-lane or some sort of contest on the side of VP where you don't just have a Tusk off lane, but a Dazzle heal is also very, very strong against it. If you Snowball one target, you heal up the target, you deal quite a lot of damage in the early game towards the heroes that Snowball in.
It's not the side we expected it to come out from.
Okay, and now for something completely different.
That actually is a God's hero.
No, I like the pickup, especially because it's it also
I was really leaning toward the Lina for G in that fourth pick, but wow, the Clinks.
All right.
Also taking it away from EG. We saw that hero yesterday.
Yeah, we saw EG really taking very good use of Clinks in their match in the quarterfinals, so taking that away. But of course, Storm Spirit, we kind of saw that coming with their bans on the silencer, and that's going to be picked up right away for EG before this very last phase.
I don't think they're really that scared of the Clinks. So firstly, they have Grave to save anyone else. He can just Grave TP if Clinks wants to look for a kill. Earthshaker can just Fissure or run away. Razor tends to build a lot of armor. They usually go for like a Mech Shivas on Razor with no BKB, which is really good versus Clinks, and now a Storm Spirit. And we're not sure if Clinks is going to get an Orchid, but the trend has been Desolator Rush, which he can easily zip out of.
But you said it. You actually said it perfectly a minute ago. They're overloading on physical damage against the Dazzle.
Yeah, very true.
Hugely.
I think it. I mean, I'm personally not a big fan of getting an Orchid on Clinks. I just feel like it's such an all-in play. If you don't make anything happen right after you pick up that Orchids, it feels like there's just better items to pick up. Going into damage with a BKB often feels better, but I almost feel like he's forced to go for an Orchids.
No, I think it's perfect here. Against the Dazzle and the Storm Spirit, I think an Orchid is a must-go.
Right. No, I agree. He would slip away, and you will have the Grave against him. He almost feels like he's forced to go for the item here.
All right, well, we'll see if he follows through that.
You gotta ask yourself, did Virtus.Pro not consider picking up the Storm Spirit themselves? Why?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
When they committed to not banning it out, and EG obviously plays it very well with Sumail, I'm surprised they didn't pick it.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of had to know it was coming with that silencer ban, especially against VP. But, maybe VP has something up their sleeves here for the last pick.
All right, that's
it's hard to argue with that.
Okay.
I mean, this becomes a very greedy lineup.
Do you think is that some contesting? Potentially?
No, I don't see that.
That's so risky with those. I mean, there's so many XP hungry heroes on the VP side. You need so many reliable kills.
But I think EG was probably considering whether EUI should play the Earthshaker and then pick into a Clockwork, but I think they just dropped that plan entirely.
Oh yeah.
There's no reason to pick up a Clockwork here.
All right. So what's left here? What's left to round out EG's pickup?
I still feel like they need to be afraid that you could consider having a Tusk Visage plus The Centaur aggressive, snowballing, that combo is quite deadly.
I mean, in all honesty, picking up a Chen here and just forcing the issue early on, I wouldn't be bad.
Not for Clinks.
Yeah, but there's a
Oh yeah,
Clinks, right?
I like
that's
that.
right.
It's
Good point.
It's really.
I think you could just keep it simple and go something like a lion. Oh,
The Bounty. Because we saw several events for Bounty across all the teams, but it's going to come out now here in game number 2 for EG versus VP. EG 1 game away from rising to the finals here at ESL 1, and VP 1 game away from being eliminated. They'll have to fight pretty strong to make a chance at going to those finals. So we'll throw it over to the casters to go right into the game for game number 2.
That's right, we are back. Myself, Capitalist, joined by Blitz. Game number 2 here. It is elimination on the line for Virtus.Pro, and they decide to pick up a Centaur Warrunner as their last pick. Blitz, I'm going to tell you real quick, I had an interview last night, and they asked me, what is the hero that can potentially make a really big splash in TI in these next, the next month? And for me, I said Centaur. I was like, that Aghanims is so huge. If people could just solve the laning phase, Centaur's going to be big. Do you have faith in Centaur, Blitz?
Right. Like, I had an interview.
No, it wasn't a side brag. Jesus, Blitz.
Okay, so the Centaur Warrunner, it's a hero that I see VP run quite often, and they might be one of the few teams that run it with frequency. And DK Phobos, I think it's because of the style that he plays. He's the initiator. He's the one that goes in, doesn't really care if he lives or dies. He just wants to start the fight. The problem, I think, with Centaur, though, is that if you don't get a Blink Dagger at a reasonable time, the hero drops off. Like, this is a deceptive hero. Because he has such a high strength gain, you think he's tanky, but his armor isn't actually that great. His survivability after the ultimate isn't too great either. And after that initial stun, you don't really have too much follow-up, aside from the double edge, which nearly kills you. So you need to have some measure of farm on this hero, and it seems that DK Phobos almost always gets it, but we'll see this game.
All right, guys, game number 2, VP versus Evil Geniuses. We already see Universe as our off-lane bounty hunter, running himself. And I got to tell you, when I was watching the draft, I really felt like they were going to rotate that Earthshaker into the off-lane position and pick up something different. But the off-lane bounty hunter, most of the time when we've seen him in this current patch, it's usually been as a 4-position roaming hero. Instead, the heavy commitment to him to the off-lane position. What's the kind of subtle differences between the two?
I think if you're playing the offlane bounty hunter, it's a little bit easier to get more reliable levels, and so you'll get the 6-up a lot quicker, and so Sumail and Universe can pretty much just go for YOLO dives, and even if they trade 1-for-1, it's going to be worth it. I think they decided to pick it as an offlaner this game and put the Earthshakers as support, because oftentimes you do want AUI to be able to sit behind one of the lanes to be able to help out. Like, PPD is already going to be at that top playing that Dazzle, and they've got another defensive hero in that Earthshaker that's just going to help Sumail out as much as possible, because this lane, I mean, I've talked about it before, but Storm versus a melee hero is incredibly Storm advantaged, and so it's going to be up to AUI to try to help out, and so G's probably going to get a few gank attempts, as we see G actually dropping quite low, and so Sumail has to anticipate some gank attempts, and that's why I think that this game, the Earthshaker, if he was an offlane hero, you don't want your offlane to have to just continuously move mid to help him out.
Right. G playing perhaps a little bit overly aggressive going into that static remnant, but is trying to utilize all of his quill sprays in order to get out that very early bottle for him to span even more. The problem is that this quill spray really isn't going to do much to a Storm Spirit, right? I mean, he's rather squishy in HP pool, but he's got a heavy, very high starting armor.
Yeah, it's actually pretty high, and since it is physical, it shouldn't do too much to him. He's going to line this up for the triple remnant, hit the range, or the one closest to him once, and he's doing a really good job right now of CSing for free, and he's making it difficult right now for G to approach this lane, as G still without a deny, but you anticipate that in a lane like this.
Meanwhile, at the top lane, they are trying to zone out DK Phobos as much as possible with just the Razor. Obviously, the Dazzle isn't going to be able to provide too much. I like to go back to what you were talking about with the two supports, two very defensive supports, particularly in the laning phase. Against VP, this does make a lot of sense. Generally, their style is rather aggressive in the laning phase, looking for those kills. But then on top of that, they've got a VP signature hero with FNG playing Toss. And that is obviously one of the strongest ganking heroes you can get in the first 5 to 6 minutes.
The problem, though, is trying to gank up against the Storm Spirit. When you've got two melee heroes, there's a good chance that he can actually just turn around and kill you, because the overload attack speed and move speed is fairly significant, and so they have to be a little bit worried, because they might not have the damage that they think they do, and so they don't want to overcommit for Sumail. Like right now, this would be a terrible time to try to go in on him, as he's just going to man fight them.
Yeah, FNG doesn't even have his snowball yet. G really needs to get that bottle back to him. There it is. We'll be able to get that refresh in his mana and HP. What's bottom lane doing for Universe? He did have a counter ward. Looks like he's managed to do with any of the laning wards being placed out by Lil. Lil still has another one, so they're going to try and save that one for a potential kill. Plus, they have the dust, and that's something else Universe has to look for. It seems like VP came very prepared to deal with his Invis hero.
Yeah, and you might just see AUI stack up the jungle while hovering between this mid lane to make sure that Sumail has the best possible start. And you're seeing him do that right now. Is he's just going to stack. Sumail's going to go double remnant build so he can cleanly kill the stack as fast as possible. Because you don't want to just stand static in the mid lane and allow yourself opportunities to be ganked. So he's just going to, I think around once he hits level 6, level 7, he's going to give AUI the mid lane and just rotate his jungle.
All things being said, I mean, G has dropped quite low a number of times, but he hasn't died yet, and he's keeping up in CS. I mean, 19-6 on Sumail, but 16-1 on the Bristleback. Considering how favored this matchup is to the Storm Spirit, G is still doing a good job keeping up his farm, and now they're actually going to go for Sumail. One remnant is already blown with 3 different heroes here. The immediate stomp, and Sumail will end up dying. FNG is the man who picks up the first blood.
Yeah, and DK Phobos' rotation was able to make that happen because you don't want to just go in with those 2 heroes. You don't have the necessary amount of damage, but with DK Phobos there, he's not doing anything at top anyways. You might as well try to rotate in for the gank because it's a Razor. He can pretty much solo zone you just with the 2 levels of the static link. So that was a good rotation by him because you don't want to just sit there and do nothing. And that's kind of the difference in styles is Universe is more about trying to get his own levels, making sure that he can ensure his own farm. Whereas DK Phobos, you see as he leaves the lane, he stacks up once for G, and he just tries to help the mid lane out as much as he possibly can.
Yeah, something that we haven't mentioned yet, but the mid Bristleback does have the advantage of being able to clear through ancient stacks, so that's something Virtus.Pro can take advantage of, as you were talking about. The Invis rune now being picked up by Lil is going to rotate over to middle, but you can see AY is already set up. They are not going to allow another snowball kill to happen as they trying to go on Sumail here, but instantly the Fisher gets laid out, and Sumail tries to make the turn. Unfortunately, his attack speed is completely gone, and FNG blocks them both out, but he only lives on 50 HP. You could see how that easily could have turned if there wasn't that Grave Chill being placed on Sumail and him accidentally stopping his right-click attack.
Yeah, and I think was it him stopping it or was it just the slow from the Visage?
It might not have. Oh, Illidan actually takes a good amount of damage from Universe. That heavy increase in damage from the Shuriken. I personally feel like it's a big buff to the Bounty Hunter. The decrease in range, but the buff being 150 damage nuke at level 1 is pretty insane. 375.
He might even actually go for this, but he's going to get dusted up, and Illidan's dropping low, but that's the kill, and a little bit too over-aggressive.
The attack speed slow of Grave Chill is not to be underestimated. And they do manage to walk away with yet another kill, 2-0 now in the favor of VP.
We saw this last game, though, where VP had a hot start, and they weren't able to transition. And I think they played uncharacteristically over-aggressive at times, going for the 3v5s that they shouldn't have. But I think this game, they have to make the necessary adjustments. Sumail in mid lane is getting dropped quite low. He's got a little bit more mana, 2 more kills. He might turn this around.
Yeah, they're going to be able to get him. No, he runs back into the Remnant. Oh, the greed from God ends up killing himself on the Remnant, and FNG, fortunately, is able to pick up that kill on the Storm Spirit at the very least, and I suppose the added benefit for him being he gets the solo experience for it.
I bet there's a regen rune bottom or something like that. AUI is like the luckiest guy in the world.
There it is.
Yeah, I told you. It's just I can tell what runes he's gonna get at what time. It's just what ends up happening. And
so it's the haste for S4, it's the double damage for Fear, and it's the regen for AUI.
It's whatever is gonna work out best for Kurt.
Oh, okay, very well. Illidan has actually been smoked up. He will go down, so Lil will be able to escape. A nice gank from Sumail as he goes down in the middle lane. He uses TP to rotate to the side lane to find a kill, and there's that regen rune.
Yeah, and it's going to go to the Storm Spirit, obviously, but in that mid lane, I think G, obviously, he misplayed that. He tried to get a little bit too over-aggressive, thought one more Quill Spray would kill the Storm Spirit, but it was just a better option to let FNG finish him off solo because it gives FNG so much. Like, he's already level 4, and he's primarily been sitting behind the mid laner, and I think it was just a little bit too over-aggressive by G, because even if he gets the kill there, it doesn't help him nearly as much as it would just help FNG out.
More stacks up the Ancients. Meanwhile, DK Phobos being routinely zoned away from the experience range by Fear. Poor guy is still only level 4, but maybe FNG can upset this. I'm not sure though. A Razor is still a very dangerous target. He's got shreds, he's missing a slight bit of HP, but it feels like he'd have to be in like intelligence or agility treads for VP to actually kill him with these two heroes.
Yeah, the Razor is pretty tanky. 986 HP. He's got a fair amount of armor early game, and the stick really changes things as well. It's almost like a mini mech in this early game, and so it's going to be a little bit too difficult for him to survive. But what I'm really curious to see is Universe's first rotation. EG are typically a team that just try to get their primary levels out, and then they don't mind getting aggressive on the map. We saw that with Sumail hopping over to that bottom lane and killing Illidan. We saw it yesterday with Fear and his Clinks just going non-stop around the map to pick up kills. And so I think this is a team that's less dependent on levels and more on items. DD rune top for Sumail possibly. No, it's going to be the bounty rune.
Invis.
50%, man.
PPD actually finds that one and will use it to TP up to the top lane, so he will actually be invisible up here. They do have AUI. Nice block off on DK Phobos. Illidan is still trying to find an opportunity. Will start going on AUI, but the info plays. They managed to actually stop that stun. DK Phobos still in some trouble though. Fear's going to try and go for it. Last couple right clicks, not quite there. The snowball will save Illidan for the time being. Stuns him up, but Illidan immediately getting blown up, and so does FNG. Our Centaur gets out, but they lose 2 still on the side of VP.
Well worth it for EG is Sumail was the primary recipient for both those kills, and PPD gets one of his own, and they might actually just chase down G, but they don't really have the mana.
No, they're going to go for Lil. Yeah, God, he can't really do anything to stop that, obviously. So he turns around, tries to get some damage out. Sumail's actually running out of mana. He pops the rear chain, trying to get over to the side. Icicle shards to block him out. He does not have the mana to get through, but FNG's on the wrong side of the table, and God, it's actually being pushed back by Fear. Looks like they managed to save Sumail and won't give up anything in return unless FNG can find another block up potentially in 4 seconds, but never mind. EG are far enough away. They will survive a situation there where perhaps the experience disadvantage that DK Phobos is facing may have cost them a couple of kills there. Not having that stampede in the critical moment means that EG are just able to dive in aggressively like that.
Yeah, and Universe had so much of a better laning phase because Sumail was able to go down there and gank for him, and you're starting to see the effects of that is, I'm starting to think that EG is just going to start running at VP, and with the bonus of the track, it's just going to be a little bit too hard for VP to keep up, because the Stampede is nice, but typically you're going to use that to initiate, not get away.
Right.
And so it's going to be really rough in these team fights where VP, they have to do something about getting kited. Is the Bristleback still doesn't have a single level of the goo.
Yeah, that just means he is less and less of a factor, not being able to get those extra warpath sacks, increase his movement speed, slow down the enemy. There's so many big upgrades that happens to Bristleback once he gets that one level. But currently, it's just the passive that's too important to him. With all these fights, wants to be able to negate that incoming damage. And they still need level 6 on a couple more heroes. Meanwhile, the Evil Geniuses supports are actually looking pretty healthy. AUI at bottom is going to pick up his 6 soon, and PPD already has his. And they aren't actually as important. Those ultimates aren't nearly as important as the side of VP. The Walrus Punch is a critical factor for FNG's ganking. So when he doesn't have that, bottom, AUI taking a good amount of damage, another stun, and the nukes, just barely enough. But VP walk away with pickoff on that Earthshaker.
Yeah, and this is typically what AUI does. He goes to the offlane, tries to pick up experience, because he assumes that nobody's really going to spend the time to gank an offlane hero, but Illidan, recognizing the threat that he is and willing to pop on over, and AUI doesn't see it coming, but Universe is now at that bottom lane. He does have his level 6 up. Illidan's not showing himself quite yet. Do they have a dust for this attempt? And yes, they do, but he's a little bit too far.
Universe, he already saw that gank on AUI, so he was playing that pretty carefully, making sure to jump away the moment somebody showed themselves. Meanwhile, G has actually farmed up his Ancient stack and is doing just one more camp, getting closer to that level 10 and level 11, which are big key levels for our Bristleback. Centaur has picked up his level 6, but still obviously needs that level 8 or 9 to get those maxed out nukes. And again, as you said, very early on into our laning phase, Blink Dagger timing is critically important for our Centaur. And at this point, it's looking like a very late one.
Yeah, and something, what's really worrisome about that, Cap, is if you look at the rest of VP's lineup, typically in games like this where Sumail doesn't have to worry about too many reliable stuns, he absolutely thrives in. And what do you really have? You've got the Centaur Blink Stun. The Snowball isn't quick enough to keep up with the Storm Spirit, and that's all you have for initiation. And so, I mean, they have to get the Blink Dagger out on Centaur or at least try to go for a Smoke Ink on Sumail, or hope that he overextends with his mana, which sometimes he does do if he feels like he has to get over aggressive, and not really in a position to do so, is he easily tops the net worth chart.
So as a Storm Spirit spammer yourself, put yourself in the position of Sumail. Excuse you. Put yourself in the position of Sumail. Do you go for like a really greedy, like you go for Orchid or something at this point, because you know as long as you have mana, you've got the skill level to be able to just dodge some of these incoming stuns, like even the Centaur Blink forward, you can make a Ball Lightning out before that hits potentially. But that could play into the potential Orchid pickup of Illidan, or do you maybe play for a more stats heavy like Bloodstone?
I think you go for the Bloodstone here, because you don't really need the Orchid on any hero. Like, it doesn't help against the Bristleback very much. It's okay against the Centaur, but most of the time the Centaur is going to be initiating on you, so it doesn't actually change your fortunes unless you're the team getting aggressive. But if you anticipate the Centaur having a Blink Dagger and them getting aggressive on you first, which is usually what's going to happen with a lineup like VPs, right? Like, they've got the Snowball, they've got the Centaur Stampede, it's probably going to be them initiating, and so if you're Sumail, you just want to get as tanky as possible and give yourself options to get ahead as much as you can. And that's what the Bloodstone is fantastic at. When you're playing against lineups that don't have heavy mana, at bottom AUI is going to go down.
Yeah, there was no way to get out of that one between FNG and Lil, and no quick TPs to defend. Fear does come down to this bottom lane. He actually had a mech, so maybe if he was a little bit quicker on that draw, he could have saved his ally. But now Vanguard being picked up by G. We see Universe making his rotation around. Now he does have the Arcane Boots, so this probably means... No, they actually have the Razor I just mentioned has the mech, so this isn't going to be a mech bounty hunter. Do you think then at that point utility or damage? Hold up top lane. Just going to take a bit of damage here. TK Phobos is here to make sure that there is going to be no death. Tries to go into PvD, but he realizes that's a very bad idea, especially with Sumail rocking that double damage rune. He uses the last bit of mana, managed to get the stun though on the right hand side. There's the fight for FNG, gets instantly cleared out by Spear with the plasma field, and now going to go on to God as well. Track is on him. Illidan is trying to get out some damage on a Fierce. Sumail dropping down from the cliff. Managed to pick up one, going for another in Illidan. Sumail battling it out. The Fissure will eliminate him, and the track gold just starts rolling in for Evil Geniuses. God should be able to get away in a plasma field from the side, but it just takes him a slight bit.
Yeah, and Sumail with a really good play coming in from the top, closing out any sort of gap that VP had of getting out, and G does escape, but it doesn't really matter because it's the Clinks that you want to survive right now. Like, G is pretty tankable, but you don't really want the Clinks to be able to die. Like, he has to get some items to put some damage on the field. Otherwise, there's just no real backbone for the rest of VP's lineup, and you're seeing Sumail get closer and closer to that Bloodstone timing. I think I've said in the past, in the old patch when it was even easier to get gold, something like a 14-minute Bloodstone, even in pub play, is incredibly quick. And for him to pick it up, he's going to get it at... Okay, wow. He's actually going to grab it at the 15-minute mark right now.
Pretty insane timing, and it worked so well with our poll that we saw. 73% people thought Storm Spirit was Sumail's best hero, despite the fact that he just played such a strong Shadow Fiend. And we're really seeing it in this game number 2. Very clutch plays there in that last team fight. Early Bloodstone, and it just seems like Evil Geniuses, they've already got the ball rolling at this point. It's only going to get bigger and bigger. Bloodstone, track golds, I mean, these are all things that start heavily playing against you if you're VP.
The problem right now, though, is that Sumail, you notice he has 300 mana, and he's still blindly zipping up, because he knows that he has 1500 HP on top of the fact that he's a Storm Spirit against a team with 0 disables. He's got PPD to back him up, he's got the Fissure follow-up, and so he's just not playing scared, and VP's going to go for the Smoke Ink. They're going to look for this fight, but I don't even know if this fight is too advantageous for them. They see Sumail at top. This is a fight they're going to take.
Yeah, this could be the game-winning. Is they're going to be able to jump in. AOI's going to make the PP away. Snowball will be able to stop him, and EG are stuck, but maybe they can still win the fight. Fear stuck between TK Phobos and Lil. Looks like he's going to be blown up by the nukes. No, he managed to get off the mech, and now we'll turn it on to Lil. Gets that kill. FNG running himself away. He's got the track on him. Fear. FNG looks like he wants to be able to try and slow down these heroes. We'll start throwing out the Sigil on a PPD where God as well as the Familiars are already going on to him. 2 for 2 exchange, and that's it. Unfortunately, they only got the 2 supports, and they fed away Illidan in the process, and let's not forget about that track gold.
I feel like that fight was going to be so much worse going in. I had a sinking feeling in my stomach for EG, but they managed to hold, and There's no way that Sumail jumps on G. I don't think even with Fear there's enough damage there, but he is going to attempt to go for this, and G's back is turned.
That minus armor was still taking him down, so God takes a good amount of damage in the beginning. He may just end up going down here. Looks like the slows are enough from Sumail. There goes that Aegis. Illidan is coming in from the side, going to try and force this one. Sumail's already popped the invis, and Fear is fast enough that he should be able to stay ahead of Illidan. So unfortunately, this means they got that Aegis for free, and Sumail just finds some more with his invisibility. In fact, where's he going? Whoa, heavy zip in, going for DK Phobos. He tried to use the ball lightning damage to actually finish off the Centaur, but it just fell a bit short.
Still, a really good play by EG, keeping that fight pretty neutral to get the Aegis out of the way. And so VP, when they had that Aegis, they said, we want to take this fight. And even if it wasn't the best fight for them, they have to take that fight, Cap. Because if you're behind like this, any fight where you have a numbers advantage is one a team wants to take. Like if it's 4v5 and you're down 20k gold, that's still the best opportunity you're going to have. You know Sumail can't get down there anytime soon, and it's not like he got any Bloodstone charges from that fight. So he's going to be pretty satisfied with how that went.
Boy, Clanks just feels like it wasn't the hero for poor Illidan. He is only at 5k net worth. The Storm Spirit is almost double that. Still see no progression in items whatsoever for Illidan. It seems like, you know, an early Orchid could have played a lot of havoc on EG, most notably keeping down that Storm Spirit. But at this point, if he goes for it, it's going to be too late. If Sumail starts seeing an Orchid being built by Illidan, he'll just go for the BKB and get it about the same time.
Yeah, and Chi in this mid lane, he's going to go for the SNY. He needs some ability to close the gap, and it's not that big of a deal, though, for VP to take that hero. What matters more is they're just trying to buy time, force EG into situations where they take fights 4v5, and EG's going to be happy if Sumail balls across the map.
Yeah, Sumail's going to jump immediately onto Lil and try and get that track gold. Will be successful in his endeavor. Universe is also down. Sumail just has the last bit of now. No, he couldn't get it up there, so he immediately commits suicide. Realizes his failure. Shamed by his Storm Spirit play, immediately kills himself. 10-11 now, still a big favor for EG despite a slight loss of heroes there.
Oh, that was fantastic for VP, though. Being able to pick up 3 heroes, forcing this Storm to sacrifice a lot of his Bloodstone charges. Now he's at 6. He's going to need at least 3 more kills even in the next fight to be able to get back to where he was. And so VP are pretty happy because it's more than just killing the Storm Spirit, right? It's getting rid of his Bloodstone charges. So it's harder for him to be able to snowball. Like, you want at least 15 in the mid game so that you can continue to do more and more, especially since he didn't go for the Orchid first. Like, it's only the Bloodstone right now, and he doesn't have any damage. So the majority of his damage is just coming from his mana pool right now. And it's not high enough, and he doesn't have the HP or the mana regen to back it up.
What other items do we have? Illidan looks like we are going to be seeing is Desolator or BKB. It doesn't seem like BKB is actually going to be enough for them to be able to turn this game. It feels like you kind of have to go all in for the Desolator, which has been the go-to item anyway for Clinxes.
Yeah, I think the Deso is a pretty good pickup. You do want to try to snipe PPD or AUI as fast as you can, but the problem is they don't have good burst damage to deal with the Grave. And that's what we're seeing in most of these fights, is that people live within 10 HP, they're able to use all of their abilities, and it doesn't even matter if they die at that point. So VP have to do a better job of initiating on one of those heroes, but Sumail's going to jump in.
Yeah, Illidan takes some damage. They managed to get the Fissure on him as well. Track is there. Mir, meanwhile, was going on to God. They managed to actually pull back Illidan. Stop goes down. What a drop for Sumail! Oh, well, what a big play. They managed to pick up 1 kill and might just get more as DK Phobos going to be pursued out by both Sumail and Universe, who managed to pick up the kill. Lil now hit by the Fissure. They're going to turn and try and kill the Familiars first, but Lil is just too squishy to ignore. Fear comes forward. Now the Plasma Field goes out. Double drops the Familiars, but Universe with a Blink Dagger manages to pick up that 4th kill, and VP are just left with God, who's farmed his all hell, but can't possibly man fight up against 5. A full wipe there for Evil Geniuses.
A 5-man team wipe with so many tracks, Universe blinking in so aggressively every single time. Sumail's all the way up to 11 Bloodstone charges. His Orchid's soon to follow, 21 minutes. Orchid plus the Bloodstone. A tier 2 tower is going to go down for EG, and
that was 2,000 golds picked up for Universe in that fight. Just from all the tracks. And at this point, I mean, what do you do with a Bounty Hunter? You got the Blink Dagger. Where do you farm from here?
You can go for the Force Staff if you want the high outplay
right?
I think going for even a Dagon at this point, or the Vladimirs, is going to help your team as well, because right now it's so hard for them to get stopped in Fear. I really like this decision to go for the Shivas. He's going to slow the attack speed of VP, and they don't really have too many damage dealing items as is. Like if Illidan decides to go for the Deso, even with his Strafe on, the Shivas is going to slow it down so much. G doesn't have that much attack speed either, and so the physical damage of VP is going to get negated really hard, and that means, I mean, you don't have any burst damage in terms of magic as is.
Yeah.
Like you've got the Centaur plus the Visage combo, but it's just not enough to deal with the HP that the EG have. Like Fear has 1300 with the mech, Sumail's all the way up to 1500. Like he's the tankiest hero in the game. Who can you burst down right now if you're VP?
Yeah, I mean, even the movement speed discrepancy between these two teams is going to be massive with that Shiva's pickup. You've got Track already increasing the movement speed of Evil Geniuses, and then you've got the Shivas to be able to slow everyone down. Feels like they're just going to constantly outmaneuver VP when that Centaur ultimate isn't up.
EG up 16 to 10. This could be their road to the finals, and TPing out of top right now. It looks like they do want to defend mid. Sumail is prepping, does have the fully completed Orchid, and he's level 15. VP are just going to back out, and I think it has to be a smoke attempt. Like they have to start looking for pickoffs right now.
Yeah, there's no way they could just 5-ban into a tier 1 tower and you know, EG are going to allow that to happen. They're going to play defense every single time, because why not? I mean, they've already proven they can easily handle these team fights in the first 20-25 minutes. God is about to pick up his SNY, so there's a small upgrade there. Illidan, same goes with the Desolator, but he's still incredibly susceptible to Universe as well as Sumail. Universe actually picks himself up a Sage. Is this an SNY, or are we going to see Heaven's Halberd to disarm the Clinks?
I think going for the SNY is fine.
Okay.
Like you've built up enough lead. Universe has pretty much done his job with the Blink Dagger and the amount of tracks he has.
Yeah.
Everything else that he gets is just bonus items, and VP forced into a position that you want a 5-man, but the issue with this right now is that you're not getting any additional gold. Like 5 heroes are pretty much just kind of standing around together as EG farm out the entire map. They farm out the entire jungle, and this isn't the way to come back, but it's their only option right now, because if they just get picked apart by that bounty hunter, the gold lead just continues to snowball. So they're sort of in a catch-22 situation where there's no real good option for them.
Illidan, he's trying to find an opening, but Fear is not the hero. Instead, he just zaps away his creep that he was trying to farm. But in the meantime, they're going to give up their tier 2 tower, though. Looks like they're going to try and make a trade-off for the tier 1. Obviously, it's not a great advantage for them to try and take, but it's simple trade-offs, right? Like, you can't actually fight Evil Geniuses, so any gold you can get on your side is going to be worth it.
Yeah, exactly. When you're this far behind in a game, going 2 for 1, tier 2 for tier 1 is perfectly fine. 10k gold, though, is doable. The problem is they have to dominate the next fight, and they go for the smoke on a few heroes. I think, yeah, they're anticipating the rotations down, but it doesn't look like EG is too afraid of what VP have to offer, as they still see that Bristle at that top lane, so it's going to mean they can get some damage on this tower.
EG, they have a Blink Dagger on AUI, but they have to wait for the Courier, so they're just going to force some heroes back from Virtus.Pro, and will then back up to farm some more, probably wait out. I mean, they don't want to push up a hill until they have an Aegis, most likely, right?
Yeah, and the Aegis is going to spawn out pretty soon, and so if you're EG right now, you've built up enough lead, you don't have to make any risky plays, you have to force VP to come to you. So what I anticipate happening is Universe is going to try to get as many tracks off as he can, so VP can't smoke or do anything tricky.
Sure.
And then they wait out the Roche timing, and he's just going to try to get aggressive, continue to track up whoever he can. Like, look, he's not moving anywhere else on the map, he's not going to the jungle, he's just trying to keep up constant tracks so that they understand what's happening for the next Roche fight. And that's the key. Once you have the Roche onto the Stormstreet, you can go high ground with that.
Crimson Guard now for the Bristleback. Okay, I mean, we already have a Vanguard picked up by our Centaur, but doubling down on that HP and damage block, Virtus.Pro are actually now going to try and sneak in Roshan. You see Evil Geniuses are not a whole lot of heroes nearby, actually 1 TB, and they may realize that this is the prime opportunity for them to go either take Roshan themselves or perhaps stumble into Virtus.Pro taking it. This will be a huge loss.
VP, they have to get this down. Illidan, he's already interrupted most of this smoke gank and will be able to run into a little bit more. The weave goes out, Icicle Charge just trying to buy as much time as possible, but Roshan's going to be very healthy. Sumail's going to reveal this one to VP. They've been caught. Roshan needs isn't even dead yet. And Lil, he's already down and out. Pops the ultimate PBD, fighting for his life in the shallow grave. He's going to go down eventually, but it looks like Aegis. Oh, he stacks it! God manages to grab it in the last second before he dies. And now they're going to have to fight again. Virtus.Pro still sitting 3 heroes around God. Universe on the side, tracking up everybody as much as possible. This is going to long, drawn-out fight. Illidan is the first to fall. TK Phobos looking for a shot, but already ordered it up. Meanwhile, God is going to have all his damage stolen away. TK Phobos is definitely going down, while God is easily chased out. The Geisel shards blocking in Universe. But that's the end of the fight. Evil Geniuses, they managed to win it quite handily. VP do take Roshan, and they do manage to snag the Aegis, but it doesn't matter.
And there's that coveted 15 Bloodstone charges that I was talking about. As Sumail, with one more team fight, he'll almost have the insta respawn. And VP, that was about as well as it was going to go. They managed to grab the Aegis. I think they got the last hit on the Roshan at the same time, and so things aren't looking the worst for them. Like, they definitely kind of made out okay, because if you give the Aegis up to Sumail, then they go high ground, and I don't know if you can kill him twice, much less once at that point.
Oh, it is going to be the halberd picked up for our bounty hunter. So ahead of the BKB, the Clinks means that he completely kills the Clinks' damage during that disarm duration, as well as potentially our Bristleback, who is also lacking a BKB. Though much more likely the Clinks, more opportune target for sure.
And so EG, here's the question now. Do you go for the high ground, even if you know the Roshan won't spawn for another 7 minutes, and farm out the entire map? I actually think that might be the play, or you can go for some tricky timing where 3 minutes in, where VP kind of get comfortable and settled in, you go for a smoke gank. Because I don't think you just leave them alone.
No, I don't think so either. At this point in time, you're far enough ahead, and especially with the item pickups, such as like that Heaven's Halberd, you don't want to allow the Clinks to be able to get his BKB, and the kind of same goes for the Bristleback. Though I'm not sure if his BKB actually is his item. There's a lot of physical damage coming out. Only certain number of disabled. Storm Spirit pullback, Earthshaker's combo. Is it enough to warrant that item for the Bristleback?
No, I think if you're G, that's a game-losing BKB.
Yeah.
BKB is meant to be an item where either A, you can't really do anything, so you have to grab it, or B, it's going to be the item that will allow you to win the fight, and it doesn't serve either of those functions. Like, he has to just get more damage on him, more survivability. He has to somehow get himself in the middle of the fight, and he wants to be the target. Like, that's the thing about the Bristleback. He wants to be hit. Because right now, the rest of his team is so light. Like, everybody dies quite quickly. Even the Centaur doesn't really have that much farm backing him up, and so he has to be the first one in. The problem right now is that Illidan just doesn't do enough damage because he hasn't had opportunities to kind of sit in the back, because Sumail almost every single time has been jumping on top of him.
So instead, Assault Cuirass is going to be a best option here, and that will be ahead of Evil Geniuses, who instead of going for an AC on Fear and doubling down on the armor items, is actually going to go back for the Aghanim Scepter, looks like, with the point booster, unless he wants to go for the right-click build of Scotty.
I think he probably will go for the Aghanims. I think they don't really have the best high ground damage because Razor really relies on being able to suck down the damage, right? And
yeah.
So I think they need some form of high ground as G gets tracked up. The weave does miss though, and EG smoked up. And this is what I was talking about. 3 minutes in, go for the smoke gank, try to get something on the map, and Sumail's jumping forward, and he is under ward vision right now, and they have to understand that the rest of EG is behind them. So VP, are they going to group together for this? There's no way they want to take this fight.
TK Phobos is actually trying to go for a late mech, but that could all be for naught. If Evil Geniuses man to find somebody, it is going to be gone. Leading with the Visor, trying to get in front of their damage. Sure enough, the disabled get laid in play. Icicle Shards actually separates Fear from his victim, but Sumail should have enough damage to finish him off. The Crimson Guard keeps him alive, but there's enough mana on Sumail to zip forward and get that final hit for a godlike spree at 30 minutes.
And that's the second time in 2 games where we've seen him do that, and I don't even know if he stops from here. He's about to grab a haste rune. He's got a full hex on him as well, and
oh, whoa!
Misses.
That's a mess up. Trying to go for the blink in play onto Lil, I believe, but doesn't manage to secure it. Now the Visor on Illidan. This is a play the side device. They're already blowing up one. They're going to be forced into some buybacks at this rate. As Sumail continues to move forward. For FNG does get stomped off. Maybe losing his Bloodstone charges. And DK Phobos commits heavily for the kill, but it's not enough damage. There's a shallow grave that will keep Sumail alive. The bird's even coming in, but they can't finish him off. The heal keeps him alive, and only the buyback from
Illidan is there. Now a buyback from Lil as well. Illidan moves forward, trying to finish off Samael. He just can't get him. Samael is on a spree here, and he will not be going down anytime soon. EG now with 4 down on VP, nothing stopping them from taking this lane of Rax.
And the buybacks were used at the same time. Sumail's got a full hex and 2,400 gold as soon as he finishes it. 21 charges on his Bloodstone. No signs of him stopping as he almost has full mana again with the amount of Bloodstone charges that he has. The stun's going to land on Lil. There's going to be no one to back him up. G's coming in, but he's hexed up. That's another kill on the way of EG. G's going to fall down too. No, but the Tuskar is going to come in, but he should be going down quite soon.
Snowball actually going in. FNG trying to stop this onslaught of EG forces, but it's still not enough. And just for good measure, AUI locks them inside of the fountain. EG will now back up. They didn't actually finish up that range Rex in top lane, but they took melee, and that's what's important. So that's why they're going to move on to this tier 3 tower. They've got a good 20 seconds until VP will try and fight again. God just trying to be on the front lines, start stacking up that quill spray damage. It looks like it will be enough to force Evil Geniuses back, but they have a host of items waiting for them when they get back to base.
Yeah, so many track kills, the racks being taken down, as well as the tower. How many kills in a row did we see as EG just stood in their base? Nobody was dying, and VP are quickly running out of options as no items are coming for them, as Illidan had to buy back just to hold the second set of racks. There's going to be no mech coming the way of DK Phobos anytime soon. And what item is really going to change VP's fortunes at this point, Cap?
Well, I'm not sure. You can name as many items as you want. I'm just not sure Virtus.Pro are going to be picking up any items anytime soon. I mean, the mech is the 500 gold for the Centaur, and yet I feel like that is an impossible task almost for DK Phobos, unless they find a really big pickoff. You see other items like potentially the AC that God wants to go for, but he's miles and miles away from that.
Sumail actually might get spotted,
But he's going to jump! Unbelievable. Samael just always one step ahead of Virtus.Pro.
The reaction time on that was insane. The fact that he barely sees the edge of the Centaur, DK Phobos blinks at the same time, manages to get out, and that was the Hail Mary smoke attempt by VP, but even getting that kill, Sumail would be up instantly, and he's going for the GG item as he's trying to pick up Dagon's.
And Universe actually sneaking in, managed to take out that tier 3 tower at bottom lane, leaving those bottom racks exposed now. Evil Geniuses not letting up for 1 second. Are now going to go for another smoke up and try and end this game right here, right now. More Dagons. Oh,
Big jump in. They're going to be able to grab DK Phobos. The prime initiator for VP is not actually going to go down. He gets himself away. The Fisher doesn't land. Samael gets a shallow grave. Jump around. Will be able to get Illidan instead. And Samael looking like he will even survive. The Visage nuke isn't enough. He actually gets away from this one again. God is desperate to kill Samael, but he's stopped by AUI. He just can't get to him. And now he's going to be surrounded by 4. The Fisher gets laid out. God stunned up. Universe in front. Dagons to the face. And EG claim another one. Beyond godlike double kill. Samael more than a man at this point.
Yeah, and he's got that Dagon level 2. He's not afraid of anything. He realizes he's gone through so much right now. G's going to be the target. He's the tankiest hero in the game. Do you really go for this? No, you're going to wait for the Tuskar to initiate in, but I don't even know if they have enough damage at this point to take down Sumail as the cave is ready by PPD and the heals are coming down. VP looks like they're going to hold racks for the time being, but how much longer is this going to last for?
even when Samael jumps in and uses his complete mana pool, if you don't kill him in like 2 seconds, he's going to have another jump because he's got 25 Bloodstone charges. That's 66 mana a second, ladies and gentlemen. Samael having the time of his life here on this Storm Spirit as he just finds easy pickings everywhere he goes.
VP, they absolutely have to lose racks. I don't know if they even have the amount of damage necessary to hold mega creeps, and so not losing racks is the key here, but EG might just forego this, say we've got enough kills, let's go for the Roshan as our next objective. If you thought it was hard to kill Sumail the first time, wait till you have to do it a second.
And if he managed to actually utilize that Aegis pickup in order to get even more Bloodstone charges, again, instant respawns we're talking about, and he has enough gold potentially to even pick up like a Boots of Travel and come back for a 3rd life. So Samael, I'm not sure how VP are going to be able to stop him, but it feels like almost luring him into the fountain with no mana is the only way they're going to stop this guy.
Yeah, and right now, Lil might be the target as Sumail sees him from the high ground.
Oh dear, the ice blow shot. That wasn't play. Fisher on to 3, and Lil's actually stuck. Blown up by Sumail. Now he focuses on Hilden. Locking him in. The snowball actually hits Sumail, pops him up in the air with the wall with punch, but it doesn't matter. He's actually still looking very healthy. God fighting up against the fear, but there goes all of his damage. Sumail dodges another stop. Finishes off 1, gets a 3rd. TK Phobos, the next target, and oh, he's gone. Ultra kill, and VP, they actually call it before Sumail can go for the total wipe. Unbelievable performance. Sumail, the young one of EG, upstanding the biggest, most experienced players from CIS in one hell of a grandstand fashion.
What is the score between the 2 games? 35-4?
Something insane.
Games against VP, who I thought were one of the favorites of this tournament. EG just clinically taking them apart as they move on 2-0 to the finals.
Sumail, just a kid, and yet